Welcome to Trending Faith here on GCU TV. My name is Ashley Romantic, and let's get started with our question from Greg. Is hell real? And I'm going to direct this question towards you, Jason.
Okay. This is a tough question to answer in many ways, but we can start off right out of the gate saying, yeah, hell is real. Biblically speaking, there is no question. I used to say in response to this question, yes, unfortunately, hell is real. I think if we back up behind the question, I can explain why I don't like to say that anymore. Okay. If you think about what is the purpose of hell, what does hell tell us, what does hell inform us or reveal to us about God, we have to understand that hell is the conclusion of just a life of rebellion. This is what happens when you consistently rebel against a holy God, a just God, a God who's pure and perfect in every way. So at one point I would say, well, unfortunately, yes, hell is real, but that's sort of like saying it's unfortunate that God is like He is, perfect and pure and holy, because if He is that, and we would want to embrace that, we would want to be excited about that, then there is going to be a consequence for my rebellion, and it's a pure consequence. It's a just consequence for hell. And so when we think about the fact that God is throughout this life offering us an opportunity to respond to Him correctly, we're going to have to work hard in a world He designed, living lives that He gave us as a gift. We're going to have to work hard to stay in rebellion, to suppress the truth that's available to us, and to persist. And if that's what we choose to do, hell makes sense in so many ways, at least at the level of justice. Now, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that people are inevitably going to go there. It is a real place. It is biblically very valid to say that it is. But I also wouldn't like the opposite, which is to say that anybody can act however they want and there is no consequence. So the Hitlers of the world, just the wicked people who've oppressed and suppressed and just done horrible things to people, I don't want to think of their lives as operating at the same level of some of those people who I look to and say, well, these people seem to have followed Christ very closely. They just do incredible things. They love their neighbors. They love God. I think that even intuitively at a gut level, we recognize that God is right in distinguishing between those two types of lives. So there is something good about God, even when we think about His holiness and His justice. It's fearful, and it's only by the grace of God that we can approach Him, and that I personally don't end up in hell. But I think it's good to think of God as a loving God and a just God, and both of those things are valid biblically, and because of that, there is a heaven and there is a hell.
That was well said. I'm really curious what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear from a student, too, about this idea of hell, because it seems like over the last number of decades, people have become more cavalier about the idea of hell. I'm going to spend it with my friends, so no problem. I'm not worried about it. Or it becomes the central theme of jokes or, stand-up. And, we kind of live in a cynical age, and I'm curious what both of you think about that feature of how we are today, about the idea of hell. I mean, if that's a place where people go for all eternity separated from God, I mean, that's a serious, serious issue. So, I mean, even when I'm around Christians, when we're, talking, and all of a sudden you start hearing like careless conversation about the idea of hell, you kind of go, I don't know if we should be doing this. I think, there's some things that I think God would smile at, when we joke about the Christian experience sometimes. But there are certain parts of it, I just wonder, we probably shouldn't jack around with this idea. We shouldn't take this subject, this theme lightly. So I'm curious, being a student, what do you hear?
I definitely have heard, jokes made about that, and I would agree with you that it's not a laughing matter and it should be taken more seriously because, like you said, it's eternal and you're there forever, so it's not something really to be joked about, and I think we kind of have to draw the line at some point.
Yeah, it's really hard not to be like the stick in the mud about the subject. Everybody's, and then all of a sudden that line comes out and you want to go, hey, you shouldn't, and then all of a sudden people look at, dude, relax. But, where is that? How do you deal with that?
Someone's got to do that,
Yeah, there's been a shift in our culture, and it's sort of predictable. But when people were close to, like when Christianity was much more prominent, much more influential, people would respond against the ideas of Christianity as if they were to be taken serious, and they'd push back seriously. But as Christianity has sort of receded from the culture, the ideas become laughable. They're not as influential. They're not as powerful. So sometimes the jokes and maybe just blowing off things like this, it's going to happen with more frequency. It already is. I think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what hell is. It's a terrifying end to a life that has not been lived well. There's a passage in Isaiah where, the prophet has been talking about the new heavens and the new earth. He's looking ahead. He's 800 plus years before Christ is even here, and he's looking ahead to the end of the world. And after he goes through that really glorious conversation about the new heaven and the new earth, he talks about the fact that some will lie down in torment. And it's just this chilling, very succinct statement. They will lie down in torment, and it's the end of that rebellion. And just to picture that, it does something to me, because real people are going to be dealing with that as a consequence of just completely rejecting God. And so when I hear people joking about it or laughing about it, I understand a little bit of lighthearted humor, and I don't jump on them either. Sure. But it bothers me. To give you an example, not about joking, but about a situation where this really got to me. I was leaving a funeral. And my wife and one of my children were in the car, and we left the funeral, and the person who was being honored that day, the life being celebrated and so on, was just completely not a Christian, had absolutely no connection to Christ or the church. And I remember sitting down in the car, having done our best to comfort the family, and there was just this sick feeling. We had no assurance of where this person was going. I'm not the judge. I have cannot make a determination about final destiny, but I had no assurance that this person was now with the Lord. And I just felt sick thinking about that. And so, the lightheartedness, it's happening, but I don't think you can joke about hell when you've come really just face to face with what the Bible says hell is. It should shake us to our core and not just scare us. It should actually, the fear of the Lord being the beginning of wisdom, should lead us to Christ very quickly.
Mm-hmm. All right, Greg. Well, I hope that answers your question. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email them to us at trendingfaith@gcu.edu or use the hashtag trendingfaith. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.